I'm Dick Girardi. I write for the Philadelphia Daily News. I've written more than 6,000 stories since I've been at the paper, and every once in a while you got one extra special. This is an American love story between a woman and a racehorse. Union Rags, a horse in the great tradition of Pennsylvania, Smarty Jones, of Fleet Alex, and Barbaro, the horses that dominated the Triple Crown from 2004-2006. This year, a month out from the 2012 Kentucky Derby, we have another horse with Pennsylvania ties, Union Rags, set to be a major factor on the first Saturday in May.
And they're into the stretch, and it's Union Rags by 4 on the wire.
Union Rags is owned by Phyllis Wyeth, whose Point Lookout is a beautiful place overlooking the Brandywine Creek. Actually, George Washington may have stopped by there overlooking the Battle of the Brandywine.
My name is Phyllis Wyeth. I was Phyllis Mills before I got married to Jamie Wyeth. My father first started with jumpers, and my mother got into the mares and started having brood mares. So all my life I've been brought up around horses. Even as a little girl, I started having to hot walk my father's polo ponies. I think I could ride before I could walk even.
Phyllis is from a horse racing family. Her parents owned a great horse called Devil's Back, a major favorite for the Kentucky Derby in 1984. So they've been into horse racing forever, her family, James and Alice Mills. So she was brought up in it. She was into steeplechase riding.
I was always fearless about everything. Why I didn't get hurt that way, I never know.
During her college years, she ends up with a sort of an internship working on President Kennedy's campaign in 1960. She was working in the White House when she was tragically injured in a car accident. She broke her neck. She could get around on braces, but it was never easy.
When she first got out of the hospital, one of the first things she had was to be put on a horse with all her braces and whatnot, and they couldn't get her up to the horse, so they dug a hole in the ground, led the horse into the ground, and put her on it.
Fearless is what she is about everything. I mean, the way she's conducted her life, particularly since she was injured, and that's a long time ago.
The fact that she's confined to a wheelchair has not stopped her. If anything, it's been an impetus.
She wouldn't sit still.
I wouldn't sit still.
She eventually went on with her life, met Jamie Wyeth from the famous Wyeth artistic family of Delaware County.
I'm usually known as a painter, but in the last few months, I'm more of a hot walker for my wife's horse. And instead of painting on canvas, I seem to be retouching iron jockeys to my wife's colors. So it's a whole new world for me.
So you have a woman who was born into a famous horse racing family, married into a famous artistic family, and for her, it was horses. Now she lives at Point Lookout. It might as well be a museum itself. Somehow, through her life, she managed, and now she's in her motorized scooter, but she always managed to keep an optimistic view about life and was always hoping that she would have a really good racehorse. Well, it turned out this was the one, and this might be the last one she ever has, because this was the last one out of her mare Tempo, and clearly this is the best one she's ever had.
My name is Katie Bacher. I'm the barn manager here, and this is also the home of Tempo, the mother of Union Rags. I know they were having a lot of difficulty breeding her and having her maintain pregnancies. They thought they were going to lose her once or twice. I remember them bringing her home and him home and coming to work in the morning and seeing them in the front field and thinking they were just absolutely gorgeous. And I never thought that we would be here together 3 years later with the story that is unfolding before us.
My name is Juan Diego Martinez. As you can see, I take care of the horses and Union Rags, the star. He was quiet to work with. Who knew he was gonna be a star, like racing like he's doing now, because he was so lazy, so lazy. When he was laying down or sleeping, I could sit on him, riding him, and he was just doing nothing.
Union Rags is a very gentle horse. He's very calm.
He'd lay down in his stall, you could climb all over him.
Never had problem with him. He was so nice.
Union Rags, I remember as a colt and whatnot, and did drawings of him as I've drawn the pigs here and the chickens and the geese. So he's you know, he's part of this farm, and to see him all of a sudden have a new life is very, very exciting, just thrilling.
Phyllis couldn't believe that she had a horse out of her mother's mare, Tempo. Union Rags spent a lot of time at Point Lookout, Mrs. Wyeth's farm, and eventually her accountant came to her and said, Phyllis, you need to sell this horse because your problem is it's looking like you're running a hobby and not a business.
I always wanted to keep him. He was the sweetest, nicest, calmest of all of them, but, you know, you got to listen to our government telling you we're going to be a hobby.
She had to sell the horse she'd really been waiting her whole life for. This is the last horse from my mother's mare, Tempo, is what she said. And she said, why am I doing this?
We all just loved that horse. Never had such affection for a horse on this place.
At the Saratoga yearling sales of 2010, she ended up selling the horse for $145,000. The moment she sold the horse, she started having seller's remorse. From that moment, she started thinking about how can I buy this horse back?
She was determined, you know, she had this dream, and I mean, it sounds like malarkey, but it's absolutely true. And she just said that, you know, I feel this is my family's breeding. I just feel that I have to get this colt back.
Having to sell it, I just about cried when it was sold.
She went to her close friend and advisor, Russell Jones, said, Russell, find this horse, buy him back.
My love was always the horse business and riding and races and breeding horses. And Phyllis and I were sitting at dinner one night, and she said, I think you ought to come and talk to the family about what a role you could play with them. And we've just had a great time ever since. Hardly a day goes by that one of us doesn't call the other one just to be sure that there's no news that one of us has heard that the other one hadn't caught up in yet, so we keep each other pretty well posted.
I wouldn't have Tempo, and I wouldn't have Union Rags here today if it wasn't for Russell. I couldn't live without him. He's here all the time. He's always been helping me through everything.
Well, in February of 2011, at a Florida 2-year-old in training sale, Union Rags was for sale again.
Russell called me. He said, you know, the Dixie Union colt you sold is in the sales. I said, Russell, go get him. Get him. Don't you want to come look at him? Do I need to come look at him? Get him.
He was really an impressive horse, and he worked impressively. And Phyllis said, well, I want to buy him back then. And I said, well,
I was going to buy him back anyway.
You're not going to you're going to have to pay more than you sold him for. And she said, well, how much more? And I said, well, it won't be under $350, and it could be as much as $400. And she said, well, I want you to go to $390.
Just get him. I'll borrow from the bank or whatever. I've never been like that ever in my life.
This is Union Rags, a bay colt by Dixie Union.
Oh boy, and he beautiful. What do you have here? 300, 303, 200 where? 202, 75, 100, and now 3, 275 and a 3, 275 and a 3, 395, 370, 70, 80, 90, 380, 390, 380, 390, 390, now I'm going to go 394 and 390,000 in the back. Thank you and good luck.
The amazing thing was somebody else bid 385, we bid the 390, end of story. It was like it was supposed to be, and she picked that number out of there and said, go to that number, and it meant to me this horse was supposed to come home. It was supposed to come home.
She got her horse back. She sold him for $145, bought him back for $390. This isn't about money, this is really a love story. I love this horse, I want this horse back. So she spent double the money to get him back and got the horse that she'd always dreamed about her whole life, never knowing that this was gonna happen. It'd be the best horse she ever had. But something just kept making her say, I gotta go get this one. She couldn't get the horse out of her mind. And it couldn't be anything else but a woman in love with a racehorse. A couple of months later, she sent him to trainer Michael Matz, who of course trained Barbaro in 2006 to his great Derby victory.
Phyllis said right away, I want the horse to go to Michael Matz, and that's what happened.
My name is Michael Matz, and I'm the trainer here at Vintage Farm. and Union Rags is under our care at this moment. I've known Phyllis probably now for, quite a few years, and I've had other horses for her, but none as good as this one.
Michael immediately was taken with this 2-year-old, said this might be a really, really good one. He knew in May this one had a chance.
He's big, he's good looking, he's athletic, he's balanced. This would be the great prototype for a great racehorse.
My name is Peter Brett, and I'm assistant trainer to Michael Matz, and I have the pleasure of riding Union Rags every day. He's a beautiful horse to ride, very, very straightforward. If all horses were like him, my job would be so much easier. You know, he's what you see is what you get. He's very big, very handsome. He has everything. He's a very talented horse. He's got an extremely good mind. He has all the attributes you want in a good racehorse. He's got all the attributes you want in a good athlete. He's a very, very good athlete.
My name's Stephanie Ball, and I'm an exercise rider for Michael Matz. We come in the mornings and we look at the set list and we decide what tack to put on each horse, and then we go set your tack by your horse, and then the grooms get them ready, and then we pull them out and we go get on them, and Michael tells us what he would like us to do. Yeah, Union Rags, he's a real happy horse. He loves being out of his stall. He's always, got a smile on his face. Mrs. White's a lovely lady. She always comes into the barn, is very happy and pleasant to everybody, and she really seems to enjoy her horse.
Phyllis's relationship with Union Rags is pretty special. Every time she comes to the barn, he obviously knows who she is. He goes up to her. He's very, very confident, and he's very quiet around her.
Down at the Florida, at the Fountain of Youth, and he came walking in the paddock, and she was right there, and he went up to her and just sort of sniffed at her, and he knew who she was.
I think it's been quite an emotional experience for her, to have such a nice horse.
I think she just has a special affection for this horse that goes further than I'll ever know.
When it came time to start the horse, Phyllis was a little nervous about starting that early in a horse's career, particularly a big horse like this.
Big horse, a 2-year-old, you don't start him like that.
She was saying 5.5 furlongs. Are you kidding?
There was a 5-furlong race at Delaware, and I talked with Peter, and I said, he's ready to run for 5 furlongs. I know that's not his distance, but don't you think he'd get a lot more experience out of that?
Michael was pretty persuasive and said, we got to start somewhere. This horse is training like he wants to start.
We took him down there, and hopefully he just was going to make a nice run. If he was 3rd or 4th and closed a lot of ground, we would have been delighted.
Union Rags is mowing them down. Union Rags running the big one in his debut. Union Rags on the outside, collars Jake and Elwood, and now Union Rags growing away.
And sure enough, Michael was right on the money. He won, and he won like a good horse.
He just did it the right way, broke, came from the back of the pack, and just galloped way past everybody and did it so easy.
Seeing a big 2-year-old come up, breaking his maiden at Delaware Park, a lot of people immediately began to think he was following the same path as Barbaro. Seeing a Michael Matz 2-year-old do well at Delaware Park is certainly a sign for great things to come in many ways, and certainly marks him out as one to follow.
He went from that to suggest we're going to a stake in Saratoga.
Then they went right to Saratoga, where he dominated in the Saratoga Special.
So Russell and I go up there, and it is pouring with rain.
It was a terrible day. It rained like crazy.
I said, Michael, we're going to scratch. He said, no, we're all the way up here. Let's see if he can run in the mud.
Into the final furlong, and it is Union Rags, just a 2-year-old, frolicking in the mud.
And Phyllis was in the winner's circle crying, couldn't believe that she had a racehorse that could win a graded stake.
It's wonderful to see a big flow of tears when he comes down the lane.
I don't cry very much. I never cry. But my God, when I say that, a horse like that, it just makes me cry. I'm speechless.
Tears of joy.
Yeah.
And then it was on to the Champagne, where he was absolutely brilliant in his first Grade 1 win. Whatever could go wrong during a race did go wrong for Union Rags that day.
It was a pretty steep upward course. The competition got tougher and tougher.
Union Rags is just starting to get underway now, but Union Rags will have to find a way through as they come to the top of the stretch.
You know, they all start making their moves at that bend, and that's where it all counts. Can you get through? Do you go the outside? Do you go the rail?
Union Rags looks for a way through down inside.
You've got possibly half a second to do the right thing or the wrong thing.
Now he looks for the way through outside into the final furlong.
He could not get through till the very last second.
Now there's running room for Union Rags, and Union Rags is full of run.
The Breeders' Cup Juvenile is really, really hotly anticipated by horse racing fans. It's really the first time you get to see all of these horses together on the national stage. It's the first time you really get to understand how they stack up against one another. Whoever wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile is very likely to be two-year-old champion, almost in some ways, regardless of what else they've done in their two-year-old season. And it really marks them out as the Kentucky Derby favorite, even though it's many months away at that point.
Top of the lane, and it's all hands on deck for Hansen now. He has to dig deep and find more, but he is. Now here's Union Rags, and look at him stride out in the center of the track. And Union Rags went wide throughout, but he's coming. And Union Rags is shifting to the outside. Hansen just keeps on going. Hansen is running an absolutely huge one on the inside. Hansen keeps going. Union Rags, Hansen, and Union Rags, Hansen. The more they asked, the more he gave, and Hansen won a thriller.
He didn't win, but he ran a winning race. He actually veered out late in the race, which cost him the race. If the race had been another 5 feet, he would have been in front.
He just seemed to be a little bit in the middle of the track, and sort of he didn't see the other horse until it was a bit too late.
He was out in the middle of the track with so many crowd people there that I just think if he would have been closer to the other horse, that wouldn't have happened.
He had a lot of heart. He really had super bad luck in the race, and immediately after the race, the internet exploded with how much further he had to run and how much harder he had worked than other horses in the race. So I think he really acquitted himself well, and even though he did not win the race, he was really, I think, gained a lot of admirers and really actually raised himself in some people's estimation more than he might have had he won the race.
Michael Matz gave him about 6 weeks off just on a farm to relax, grow even bigger. He was already a big 2-year-old. We got him back on December 29th at Palm Meadows, and he noticed immediately the horse was bigger, stronger. He's almost 17 hands now, which is about as big as a racehorse gets. The fitness level, you could see it in Florida. It's just over the top. His first race back was at the end of February 26th at Gulfstream Park. Interestingly enough, the jockey who rode him most of his 2-year-old year, Javier Castellano, chose another racehorse to ride that day. So Julien Leparoux ends up riding, and Michael Matz had won a Julien Leparoux months before.
Every time we turn around, it's a little thing like that that comes to pass that says, this should happen.
Julian's a very good horseman, and Julian will get on with him pretty straight away. I mean, but he's a very easy horse to get on with. If you didn't get on with him, there's something wrong with you.
It was really a treat to watch the way he was ridden by Julien Leparoux.
I think Julian and him make a very good couple.
Funny how these twists of fate lead you to places where maybe you wanted to go to begin with.
Around the far turn, Discreet Dancer, the leader. Union Rags is moving now. There he goes. There goes Union Rags and Julien Leparoux, and they've taken the lead on the outside.
He knew who the horse to beat was, and he waited until he had that horse in his sights.
With a good horse like this, it's tremendous. You know, it's like driving a Porsche and just waiting just to put your foot down, and with him, you put your foot down and you just get this tremendous surge from behind.
He just pushed, it was almost imperceptible unless you're watching, very lightly on the horse with his hands, and Union Rags took off.
It almost backs you up the backside and off you go.
And they're into the stretch, and it's Union Rags. Oh, what a comeback! Union Rags by 4 on the wire.
Leading a winning horse in off the track is not like leading a horse in from a pasture, that's for sure. This thing is, you know, he's full of steam, his nostrils are flaring. So this really is the first time I've ever led a horse off a racetrack who has just won a major Grade 1 stakes race. It's like holding fire in your hand. I'm getting used to it though.
I think he's getting more and more into this because he can see what joy it brings his wife. And I think Jamie, now that he's seen what this is all about, I think he's fascinated. And I guarantee you, when the painting is done of Union Rags, there's only one person going to do it.
The Kentucky Derby really is the Super Bowl of horse racing. It's the first time that the whole national audience tunes in to watch a horse race.
A month out from the Derby, Union Rags is absolutely the horse to beat. This is that horse, like Smarty Jones and a Fleet Alex and Barbaro were that horse that Pennsylvanians all got behind.
We've become used to doing well in the Triple Crown. We've gotten used to winning, and we really like to have a local horse to follow, and it's wonderful to have Union Rags following in their footsteps. He's just doing it so well that you really can't help but just get behind him.
This is that kind of horse whose owner was in the game but never had a good horse.
Union Rags really looks like this is kind of the culmination of a long-term breeding program, and really I think for Mrs. Wyeth this is just such a great horse to have coming out of that this really interesting female family that she's had really going back a couple of generations.
And here very late in her life gets this horse of a lifetime, Union Rags. So the fact that the horse was galloping around the fields at Point Lookout, and they're thinking, well, maybe this will be the one. And now as you close in on the Derby, it's what every person in the game wants. First you want to have a chance, then you actually want to get there, be one of the 20 horses in the starting gate, maybe be the favorite and win it. Yeah, who doesn't like that story?
We all just loved that horse. Never had such affection for a horse on this place.
I think she just has a special affection for this horse that goes further than I'll ever know.